Hello, Digidestins. This is Kyle D, better known as Ride My Avatar, bringing you some informational video for you. Today's informational video is none other to understand this little mechanic right here. We all know what it is, a memory gauge, right? Well, the biggest issue about the memory gauge is a lot of people just don't know how to utilize it best. A lot of new players are coming in, they're kind of nervous about giving your opponent too much memory or maybe too little. But again, there's a right balance with everything. You want to give your opponent just enough memory, but you don't want to choke too much because they're going to choke you back. But again, how do you counteract all this? Well, we already know there are many ways to stop plays and stuff like that. You just make your opponent just have one memory to constantly pass your turn. Well, that sometimes just doesn't work all the time because your opponent has access to tamers, or in case of blue you have hammer spark, or your opponent can just literally play at 1 to 2 memory, and then you're kind of in this weird situation where you're trying to make them pass your turn but they can't because you gave them enough, or they have memory borrowers and everything like that, or they literally don't care about what you do. There are plenty of decks that do that, and there's just not enough time to stop that. So what do you do when you run into these situations to become better at playing a card game like this, where a resource is still a resource? It is not anything you have to worry about, because people don't understand that this gauge is not as scary and complicated as you think. So we're going to list off some decks and kind of tell you where they kind of play. So let's go over, first off, Megazoo. Megazoo loves memory gauging at 10 and 13s or more. They will play around that number and they'll just give it to you. They don't care that you have this extreme memory because they're playing a big Digimon that you have to answer to or you die. Because they run Volcandramons, they run Phoenixmons, or they run Titanmons, they run all these big dudes that just pretty much say, answer me or we trample you. And that's how that deck plays. It will never change, and especially with them playing Piedmon, they'll rest your stuff. Puppetmon, they'll rest your stuff, and if they rest your stuff, then you're in this situation again where you're like, well, what do I do when you're given all this memory you can play, but now you have to answer this deck? Well, there's no problem with answering that deck because, again, they gave you enough to work with. Well, let's go into, let's say, now Rookie Rush. Rookie Rush, now let's go into something called Rookie Rush. Rookie Rush only plays at 2 to 12-ish range. Well, again, they're playing a lot of rookies, and they're choke pointing you to be 1s or less. If you can play at 3, they're in trouble. They don't like you playing at 3. So that's where tamers come in to counteract this deck. So again, you want to be able to look at the field, especially when you're playing against Rookie Rush. Your tamer that gives you guaranteed 3 memory a turn is like your godsend. They save you when you need it, and there's nothing wrong with that. So again, they'll play that, and then they have Puppetmon to rest your stuff and keep you so they can keep swinging. But if you can wipe their boards with a Volcandramon, then you give them like 10 memory. What's the problem? Where's the harm in that, Because again, you're not in a situation where you're too afraid of playing the game. These decks they manipulate the state of the game where they want to play in a way that they benefit from it, and you benefit less. Because again, that's how it goes. The memory gauge is a resource. It's not that scary. This is the reason why these decks exist, both on opposite sides of the spectrum. I'm showing you 2 very opposite sides of the spectrum on how they want to play and how they want to react and be. So next, let's go over the major meta decks. First off, we have Omnimon Blue. Omnimon Blue, from starter to Omegamon or Omnimon, is 11 memory to beginning to boot. They will go from in training, rookie, champion, ultimate, mega, Omnimon. So they need at least 11 memory to do this in a proper sequential order. They will borrow small stuff. Maybe it might be up to 12 memory, depending on what they get in the middle. And that sometimes you have to look at that and realize, okay, my opponent requires this much memory. Let me try to stall them out a few turns, especially pay attention to cards they use. Like in blue Omnimon, their champion turn, they're going to get 1. Their ultimate turn is going to cost them 2. So it's going to need 3 memory that turn to proceed. So usually if they go first, they'll give you 1 memory. So know that no matter what you do in that situation, giving them 1 back is going to be fine, because then when they go to make an ultimate from their champion, it now costs 2 memory to do it, and it'll pass over to you. So they're going to have to waste a turn. So understand when it is vital to choke them, but then realize after a certain point, it's either if they have their tamer out, then don't worry about choking them that much, because then you're on a clock. They're no longer caring what you're doing. Your choke point is mute. It doesn't matter. So again, what you want to do is play through and play bigger end. So when they have the tamer out, go bring them to 4. Bring them to 5 if you have to give a stabilized board. Don't just give it to them when you can't choke them, when you can choke them. So you got to remember, you got to pick and choose when you want to choke and when you don't want to choke. And again, you're forced into situations where reading the field is so important, and maybe you run into a new deck you haven't faced before. Pay attention, and lose game 1. I'm going to tell you this right now. Don't care about game 1, care about game 2 and 3. Make it your business to win those games, because you now know what your opponent is doing. Because again, you just need to know, you don't have to be a master at this game. You just need to know how much resources your opponent needs. So let's continue on to Omnimon Red. Same thing with blue. They need 11 to 12 memory. Still, you have to choke them out. Again, early on in the game, choking them out helps stall it to be your advantage. So again, they both play the same style, but different ways. Red likes to hit for high damage. Blue is a little more harder on the choke point because of Hammer Spark. But if you're playing black, Millennium Turbo, you really don't care as much, because again, you have the mouse guy, Chinimon or whatever his name is, that chokes out the Hammer Sparks, which you definitely want to play if you're facing in a heavy blue meta. So definitely take that into account. Now we have yellow Kenaurosmon, Steven's main pride and joy invention that he kind of made more aware of a control variant. They love playing on 8 to 9 memory. Getting to Kenaurosmon is about 8 memory to 9 variants, but they also will be playing heavy hitter spells like the 7 stars, which costs 7 memory. Then you have the song, which is 5 memory. They both use a lot to give your opponent. So again, knowing that you can give your opponent a little bit more if you can keep out of their range of their card kills is very important, but know when to do it. Because again, also remember that yellow's biggest downfall is if you can build up your stack in the Digimon, in the breeding area, then you would be in a better spot. Most people will not understand that. You kind of have this protection area where nothing can affect your Digimon. You, of course, don't get anything off, but if you're playing a deck that you don't really know what's going on about, take a moment and pay attention to what their game plan is. Follow out the cards and read the field. It only takes... Most decks can play out what they can unless they have such a terrible hand and you river stomp them. It's fine. If you lose game 1, you both are now equally knowledge on what you're playing, and that's when you make good plays. So value purple now. Value purple relates on Piedmon, taking up all the Digimon, replaying them. They play at 12 because They need 2 memory basically on you to give them. So if you give them 1, they can't play their Piedmon, but they will have mat out as soon as physically possible to keep the choke point going, so they can get Piedmon out, or they get, you know, Lilithmon, or, you know, not Lilithmon because she's not a hard cow. She just, you can evolve into her. They use 7 for Trump Sword. Keeping your Digimon active is so important. And then again, big plays, small momentum. You just need to know what you're doing. Green Aggro, let's be honest. Green Aggro plays at 8 and 9. They don't go any higher. I mean, except for when they want to hardcast Puppetmon, then they'll go to 10, 12. But again, know what your opponent is going to do to answer you. Their decks are very easy to predict right now because we have such a small card pool, and that makes it so you have a better advantage. So what happens when your memory is on the field when your opponent plays a tamer? Your tamer is guaranteed 3. What is the best amount to give to your opponent when they have their tamer out? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Give them to 5. Give them to 4. Give them to 6 if you have to. Again, they're already gaining 3 memory. Now you're playing a different game, because once you both have your tamers out, all bets are off. You have guaranteed 3 memory. They have guaranteed 3 memory. They have to give and take on this situation. Either you take advantage of it, or you don't take advantage of it. And that's the problem, is everyone's afraid of this memory gauge. They're always thinking, no, I don't want to give my opponent too much stuff. Well, if your deck is full of answers that pretty much doesn't care what they do, then why are you doing that? Why are you choking yourself out or struggling to play something when you're afraid to give your opponent too much memory? If you have Omnimon and you have a big 10k drop on your first turn, and you think that's the best line to play, and they cannot answer your deck, go for it. Go for it and give them a big thing. Because again, Mega Zeus still tops and can still kick butt, because they don't care how much memory they give you. Again, Rookie Rush cares about how much memory it gives you because it needs to be that deck. Red Omnimon doesn't really care too much after they reach their ultimate. Once they hit Mega, they can go like, you can have as much memory in the world. Same with Omnimon Blue. They don't care if you starve them. They have Hammer Spark to try to pull up and to starve you back. Yellow Kenaurosmon is straight up control variant. They don't care how much memory they give you at the end of the day. They just want to have you weakened. Purple Value doesn't care because they have all this stuff where it's pretty much, I play this, I answer this. I play this big guy to give you like 6 memory, but you're losing value because I'm taking out 2 to 3 of your Digimon. Boom, out, boom. Trade equals out, and they draw cards off of that. And then Green Aggro is kind of the slow end of the stick because they got hurt by not having their downloads and everything like that. It's just a big issue. So guys, remember, hopefully that you found this video very informative and very much practical. I really hope you guys stick around for more, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.